Hello everyone in YouTube land, it's your boy Teagle the Beagle back again with another commentary video, and today, after this long, after how long I've been begging for it on stream, I finally got Armored Core 6. It was a gift given by my aunt, which I am shouting her out because I love her. Granted, she did accidentally get me the version in Japanese, so I don't quite understand it most of the time, but I can always look up the story, so that's not a huge problem, and playing it is more than enough of a gift. So it's honestly not a big problem. Plus, I've already, gotten to Act 3, so I can't exactly get rid of it now, because I've spent too much fucking time in the game. But, I will say, I have already looked up the story and watched it all, because I have the Japanese version, so I can't, experience the story properly anyway. So I said, fuck it, I'm gonna spoil myself fully into the story, and I watched it all, and it's, I want to talk about it, because I've noticed a misconception that I got from watching YouTubers review this game, such as Actman, which, by the way, shout out to Actman for being one of my favorite YouTube channels on YouTube, but he does have some takes that I find really ignorant, including the one in Armored Core 6, where he said the plot is non-existent. I'm not sure if that's a popular opinion, but it's, in my opinion, at least, that is completely and utterly wrong. The plot, I think people ignore a lot of the time because it's told in a very unconventional way, right? Instead of characters and cutscenes and such, it's told in a way of, audio logs and chat rooms and messages, and that way can turn a lot of people off. I will admit, in terms of the game, I did think at first the storytelling as well was told in a really bad way, which made me try to ignore the story at first and kind of just, I felt like I had to sit through it because I genuinely wanted to know what's going on. But the more I watched and the more I got into it, the more I understood that, my understanding went from, these are one-note characters in a mech fighting game. Okay, they just wanted to shit out something good. Because for some reason I forgot it was From Software who made this. The guys who can make medieval fantasy still cool, even though it's been overplayed to shit. Seriously, the fact that they can still make the medieval genre actually interesting to experience is fucking remarkable at this point with how much it's been oversaturated. However, the more I understood these characters, and the more I really analyzed and looked at them for more than 5 seconds, the more I realized, wow, these are really interesting characters, as well as interesting, choices in the game design that I want to talk about, which may influence the story. I want to first talk about something that may seem odd, but the color choices, in my opinion, may have some form, some, amount of effect on the characters themselves. And it's not color, their color reflects their personality, which it may, as I'll get into in a bit, but I more think the color choices really enhance the game and enhance the feeling of dread in this story, while also not looking like a drab apocalyptic movie from 2007, number 468. You get what I'm saying? It's not a bland color palette of grays and browns, except it is. That's the crazy part. It is a lot of grays and browns, and the, splashes of color normally come from your weapon blasts. However, even the colors that go on mechs, sometimes mechs will be these reds or these blues, they're all very muted. It looks like someone went to a color on the color wheel, went to the grayest version of that color, and then went right till they reached, a decent point where you could still tell it was, let's say Rusty, for example. His mech, it's blue. However, it seems to hold back on the blue a lot. It really feels like a very dark blue, and somehow those little tints actually add a lot to make the game not look so drab. It also helps that the red color of coral, which I think personally represents passion, really does help add splashes of color. Especially when I fought the ice worm in the snow where it was all white and it was very bland looking. Just that fucking pop of red made it so much more interesting. But yeah, the colors in this game are really interesting in that way, because I think they represent the story as a whole. The story as a whole in Armored Core 6 is moral grayness, in my opinion. Genuinely. Because when you look at the endings, in most games, even places like Elden Ring and such, you can normally pinpoint a bad ending or a good ending, but in Armored Core 6, realistically, most people have to determine what's bad and good for themselves with these endings. They all have, like, every single ending, you are doing something for a reason, and honestly, you can, like, mostly rationalize it with, well, what else was I supposed to do? For example, with the Walter ending, like, where you blow up all the coral, like, yeah, a bunch of people die, but what else was I supposed to do? Let coral run rampant and possibly cause even more massacres for years upon millennia to come? Why would I allow that? Yeah, it's a huge sacrifice, but for future generation it's necessary. Or perhaps the ending where you merge, like you use the coral convergence to merge human and coral together. And the, like, justification for that can always be like, oh, well, what was I supposed to do? The Korra's alive, and the Korra clearly has personality. There are people living in this stuff. Why would I blow it all up just to possibly save people in a future generation? That's not even a guarantee. You see what I'm talking about? All these endings have a very moral grayness to them, in the fact that they can all be perceived as either extremely evil and disturbing acts, or extremely good and great acts. And in my opinion, that's the best writing. It's why JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Steel Ball Run has the best writing in the entire show, in my opinion, because the protagonist had the most moral grayness. He was the most interesting protagonist. I'm not even finished with that, and I think it's fucking the best thing ever. But back to Armored Core 6. With these moral grayness and these choices, you can really see that in the characters as well. The character of Walter specifically, he is kind of a fucking asshole. He's absolutely willing to destroy, and I mean destroy, the entirety of the Rubiconians, all the Coral, all these people, for his own goal, which is technically selfish, because he's doing it for an unselfish reason, but it is still selfish. Not to mention, well, yes, I understand that he does care for 621 and is genuinely a good person, he still does treat 621 like shit, especially when they first meet. He literally calls him a dog in the opening cutscene. He's a very morally gray character, in my opinion. And I think that's what makes this game so good. It does pick sides at times, but in the end, you are left to decide what side you agree with. Which is actually really awesome, because in the game, you're not really given much choice. You are pretty much a wage slave for whoever pays the fucking most, right? And I think that's also really cool, because it's literally about, like, this is your first time allowed to be independent. You are allowed to make a choice here. Like, all those other times, you could be doing shit, you're like, no, I don't agree with this, I don't want this to happen. In New Game Plus Plus, it actually does change that around, which I think does better the story and worsen the story in some ways. So overall, it's like balanced out, in my opinion. However, back to how I'm bringing this back to colors. I know I brought that up a bit ago, you might have forgot about it. But with all these grays, these moral grays, if you take all these colors, these muted colors, along with all the dark grays and the browns, and you meld them all together, well, normally it would create black, but what I think they could be going for with these colors and this color theory is that it's blending together to form an almost grayness. All these colors are not bright, happy, or dark and gloomy. They're almost right in the middle. I mean, if you look at Carla's mech from the game, you can see very, very fucking clearly that those colors are greens and pinks and such and reds and all that. However, they're still muted. They still feel like they have almost like a tinfoil was placed over them, or like it's in the shadows almost, which is definitely a nice little touch. I may be reaching on that, but again, this is like a rant, so I'm just saying things off the top of my head as I think about them. I'm gonna back off the color theory and talk about, like, the characters in the story themselves. The characters are really interesting. And I actually want to talk about the corporations specifically in Balaam and, fuck, was it Dafeng? Daft Punk. I don't really remember, if I'm being honest. They were more forgettable in my opinion. One of the bad writing decisions in the story. However, I still want to talk about them because while in gameplay they were forgettable, in actual story relevance and in analyzation, they're quite interesting in my opinion. These two corporations show off, in my opinion, I know this is a Japanese game, but this is just what I think. I think they're inspired by the two different types of workplaces. Wait, what? What I think about these two corporations is that they represent the two different types of workplaces you can find. And those workplaces are ones of camaraderie and ones of, for lack of a better term, submission. Practical enslavement sometimes. Let's actually start off with Balaam, because I think that's a nicer topic to talk about. Balaam is like the most ridiculous over-the-top thing ever, and I'm so glad I have actually watched the American dub of this game, because it is so much better than the Japanese voice acting. You have no fucking idea. Sorry if you do hear a fan in the background. I have a heater up because it's snowy as fuck, and it's pretty damn cold in here. Anyways. Balaam's voice acting in the Japanese version feels very regular. He just feel like all the Balaam ACs kind of just feel very ordinary and very like, get to work, grunt, shit like that. But in America, they give them such a fucking personality. I mean, I know it's there in the Japanese original version, but oh my god, it just comes across so much better in the American voice acting. With Armored Core 6's Balaam Corporation, there is a military, almost American stereotype-based energy to them that I just fucking love. Like, I absolutely love indulging in the American stereotypes, especially when other nations make them. That's why I think Senator Armstrong is one of the funniest fucking villains ever created. He's just so ridiculous and over the top, and I can't help but love that about him. It, shows the whole time in the campaign. You will see these guys working together, all these ACs from Balaam working together as comrades. I mean, granted, they insult each other and talk shit to each other, but it's almost like a sort of friendly, playful way. It doesn't always come across as that, but I feel like most of the time they genuinely do care for each other. I mean, especially, if you choose the mission where you have to kill G1 Michigan, well, you get to see his troops specifically backing him up, because, yeah, while he says, you maggot, you piece of shit, he's genuinely, a good guy. However, bringing up that moral greatness again, he still is trying to take away the coral and trying to push people out of their home planet, so he's not necessarily a good person, but still, he's a really good guy to his, following, or not following, his company. Especially the members of, Gun 1, Gun 2, the Red Guns. He treats them like they're his friends and family, which I assume they're his friends. I don't think they're his family. But still, it's legitimately heartbreaking when you have to kill him. This is opposed to when you have to kill the leader of Arquebus! Arquebus, not Defong! Oh my god, Arquebus! Fuck! The entire Chinese joke doesn't work now. Oh my god, my comments are gonna be fucking filled with butt teagles. Oh, fuck me. Okay. Yeah. Cut this out, please. Fucking Christ. But yeah, Arquebus, not Dafeng, has Snail as their leader, which can only be described as the secondary type of workplace. Activision Blizzard, as I like to call it. The most toxic, disturbing environment that will definitely get exposed in a couple years for, influencing, women's suicide. No, probably just, suicide in general. No one is safe here. They equally give out fucking trauma. Specifically Snail. Throughout the game, we get a lot of mentions of how Snail has, fucked with the people in his company. They legitimately, they don't follow him out of camaraderie, like the Red Guns and all that, and G1 Michigan. They follow him basically out of fucking fear and wanting the big bucks. There's no real, camaraderie within Arquebus. I mean, even Snail himself He's just an arrogant fucking prick the whole time. He talks about, I am Archibus. You don't see G1 Michigan saying, I am Balaam. I'm the only thing important to this fucking company. No, you don't, because that's arrogant as shit. And shows that he doesn't really value anyone around him because he believes he is the company. Not the workers, or the managers, or, you know, any of the people that actually do the work, unlike you lazy fuck. I actually want to go in depth to this Snail character, because honestly I feel like the game doesn't explain to us enough about all the shit that he did. Maybe in the logs it says he did some shit, but honestly I feel like he fucked with every one of his Vespers, or ACs, in some way, shape, or form. I mean, you've got one of... I'm not going to remember their names, because their names are difficult, unless they're Rusty. But, like, Rusty, like, literally hates working for him so much, he just betrays him for the Rubicon Liberation Front. You've got one guy who you have to get into a sneak mission, who's pretty fucking cowardly. Like, halfway through, he's like, spare me and you'll come out on top. Please stop. Please stop. Stop it. Stop it. Like, damn. I mean, he doesn't go that intense with the begging to stop, but you get what I'm saying. He's very cowardly, he's very scared, which could be a result of Snail's possible emotional and or physical abuse. I mean, the guy ranked 1 in the arena is one of the Vespers, and I definitely think there was some sort of, like, Snail behind the scenes doing almost a grooming session to make, like, basically grooming him into being the greatest warrior he could possibly be that loves to fight. All he talks about is wanting to get some fucking ass beat. Which, like, and even when you die, he literally says to you, get back up, bitch, I'm not that. Like, I'm dead, bro, what do you expect me to do? The corporations themselves are definitely very interesting. If you want a video that truly goes fully in depth to just them, I would suggest the video by Fat Brett, who, by the way, please go subscribe to him and check out his video essays. They're like mine, but actually with good video quality, and with actual, like, scripts, so that he doesn't just ramble and rant the whole damn time like I do. Now, going back to the whole, like, the story is nonsense, I just kind of, like, I haven't really proven, or disproven, I should say, that point really much. I've gone over, like, the color theory that I went over, and I've gone over how the endings and characters promote moral grayness, but I haven't really gone over the meat and bones of this story, and that is despair. This Armored Core has always been a series about despair, especially if you go to Armored Core for Answer. There's literally a fucking ending where you kill 100 million fucking people. I'm not gonna say how, because I want you to play that fucking amazing game, emulated if you can. The frame rates on the PS3 where it was played on were fucking terrible and horrendous. But seriously, emulate it if you can. That game is fucking amazing. And it's also one of those where you do have to play it like 3 or 4 times to get the endings, but it's actually like super worth, because the gameplay is fucking amazing and fun. However, in Armored Core 6, the game is built off of a different despair than the others. While the others were built off despair of the loss of human life and protecting human life, this one is more built on the despair of humanity's already fucked. Humanity is already severely in the fucking gutter, to the point where, like, people like Balaam and Archibus rule the fucking world. And, like, Balaam, I mean, cool, I guess, but they're kind of American stereotypes, meaning they definitely want to colonize your planet. And then you've got Archibus, just... they've literally got a fucking combat groomer as their leader. Need I say more? I think there's, like, a singular good person in Armored Core 6. There are some that are way better than others, such as Handler Walter or Carla, but there's no one that's genuinely just a straight-up good, kind person to be a good, kind person. Rusty is definitely the closest, and I think, yeah, he breaks the rule. He's genuinely just a really good fucking guy. He, like, betrayed Snail and the bad guys just to join the Rubicon Liberation Front. Just because he wanted to. Like, he's genuinely, like, the only thing you get close to a good person. And, like, there's air, but she's not human. She's coral. She is basically a floating speck of energy that you can communicate with. Which, like, brings up the whole fact that air is a lot nicer than any human because she's not a human. And honestly, like, if you look at humanity, especially in this series, we are kind of the greatest monster. We're like a horror movie monster with 1,000 arms, 1,000 heads, and unending hunger for everything. Everything industrialized. Everything, must be produced. Everything must be taken. Everything must be hours. Take. Destroy, create. It's a non-stop hunger for more and more. And eventually, Armored Core 6 will probably become our future if we ever do come up with mechs like this or technology like this before our sun explodes, or we're able to travel to a different planet at least. Like, this is definitely humanity's future. You think we're going to stop wanting to take? Like, yeah, it's decreased over the years because there's not much else to take if you really think about it. Wars still happen all over for territory, and there's not much territory to take at this point. However, if you open up space, a literal, limitless void, an unending infinity that is getting bigger, the infinite is getting larger, the infinite space for you to take is getting larger. You think humans are not going to want to conquer and take as much of that as they can for their own selfish wants? That's stupid. At the end of the day, I love humans, and I think humans can be great things. I mean, that's why I have friends, surprisingly. I also will fully acknowledge that a lot of the time, humans are greedy. Hell, I'm no exception to this. I can be greedy, I can be selfish, like, at times. And in the past, I used to be that way quite a lot, actually. However, we all kind of have our reasons for this that we all give, which is the fact that, well, we're traumatized. 99% of the time, it's because of other humans that we are hurt. Because humans like to take so much, they end up hurting so much, which causes other people to get more hurt, which causes them want to take more, which then causes more people to get hurt, creating an endless, vicious cycle. And Armored Core 6 pretty much shows off the pinnacle of that cycle. What will happen? No one's a good person. Everyone's trying to take, and take, and take, and take. And even 621, even though they're pretty much a free agent that has no stake in this,
Handler Walter verified.
You, the player, are. And now I want to bring up the narrative genius that is turning the player into a fucking monster. In Armored Core 6, both me and many people who played it ended up, because they wanted the parts, because they want, oh, I want that shiny new part, I want that shiny new CPU, I want that shiny new thing, that weapon, that gear. We go for the missions that take the highest money. We end up just doing whatever gives us the most money, regardless of morality. We're a war profiteer at the highest amount. And yes, that's built into the story. However, you as the player don't go, this is gross, this is disgusting. You end up agreeing with it. You say, fuck it, let's get some money. I mean, people like Asmongold are like that from the beginning, but that's more because comedic value. But genuinely, real people who aren't trying to be heartless end up becoming heartless. You end up wanting to take and take and take. And that's a really good testament to how well this game turns you into a fucking monster. It reminds me of something like Frostpunk, which I'm not going to go into details, but there are moral choices in that game that you feel like, oh, I have no choice but to do this, and you will end up becoming a fucking dictator, or a zealot, or just these evil, disturbing things because you want more. Well, mostly it's for your people to survive in that game, so it's a bit more justifiable, but in this game, it's genuinely just because you want more. You want more. And if you genuinely do care and you go, I know it's a lot of money, but I don't want to do this. However, you never say that. You look at the money it gives you and you go, alright, it's worth it. That is semi-terrifying, but at the same time, also, once again, a testament to how well this game tells story. Specifically, story of humans taking from humans and causing humans to feel lost, and once again the cycle continues repeatedly, and once again, Armored Core 6 is the pinnacle of that suffering, that endless hatred we have for each other. And that brings up back another point I stated, which is that humanity is the greatest monster. What do you think causes the most pain to humans? Is it weapons? Is it violence? Is it like bear maulings? Is it nature? Is it disease? No, it's humans. Humans are the most harmful thing to other humans. And it is quite unfortunate because the human race has great capacity for change. And it's kind of remarkable how much people could change from disgusting, terrible people to some of the most wholesome saints you could ever meet. I literally know someone who did that shit. If I had known them before we became friends, I would have wanted them to die. But instead, they changed and they truly proved that they felt sorry for their actions and tried to repent for them. However, that's not what most people do. Most people try to change and they try to go into the what is needed for them, but they end up not going through with it. Whether it's because they were too lazy, they genuinely didn't want to, or some other reason, they end up not changing. Because change is difficult. Change is difficult. It's necessarily difficult. You have to do it. It doesn't matter how hard it is, you still have to do it. But it's difficult. And it's fucking so hard to do. I just basically said the same thing twice, but you get what I'm saying. However, at the end of the game, where you're genuinely forced to look at, the result of your actions, a lot of the time, at least if you weren't ignoring the story, players tend to reflect and think, damn, that was fucked up. I feel bad about that. I genuinely do. And it's even though these endings are morally gray, as I brought up earlier, people still feel like they were being assholes. Though a lot of the time, the crazy part is, they don't. What I just brought up was a rare occurrence. I fooled you, I tricked you. Most of the time, people look at that and genuinely do hit the justification for their actions, which is perfectly fine because the actions were justified. But still, it does show how the game turns you into a monster without remorse a lot of the time. And you'll have remorse for certain people, like maybe Handler Walter, maybe Carla, and these people, especially Rusty. I don't think, there's anybody besides, one person I saw who genuinely did not like Rusty, which if you don't, get on the pike. I'm burning you like the witch trials. But back on a serious note, a lot of the time, people just see their actions, they go through with it, they get their cash, move on, do it over and over again in this game, because it does turn you into a monster. I know I keep saying that and keep emphasizing it, but it's honestly really cool to see, because not a lot of games can do that reliably. A lot of the time, they go too evil with it, and players would be like, oh, well, I don't want to do this, I'm a villain. I don't want to be a villain, I don't want to be a monster. Or they don't go hard enough with it, and players end up not realizing, oh, wait, I was being a dick? That didn't seem that bad. Armored Core 6 strikes that perfect balance, and it only makes sense that From Software, one of the only current game companies that I fucking respect anymore, by the way, Ubisoft, Rockstar Games, CD Product Red, holy fuck. From Software seriously stands as one of the few pillars of gaming that if they release a game, 99.9% of the time, it's not going to be bad. The only bad game they ever released that I can ever think of was Dark Souls 2. Honestly, I was hoping I would have more to talk about, but I feel like because this was a rant, I didn't talk about it in as much nuance as I would want. If you guys do want me to get more nuanced on my takes in Armored Core 6, please let me know in the comments below and just talk about it, and I'll make a genuine script for this and go over my takes for Armored Core 6. I'm probably going to come up with more by then because I'm still analyzing the story, so this may turn into a part 1 of many. However, either way, whatever way I make it, just remake the video or make it a series as I think of new shit. I do hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed intensely making this. If you do like this style of content, please let me know. I'm trying to shake up and figure out what type of content I like, and so far this is one that I actually quite enjoy. And I do hope to see you on my other videos. Perhaps check those out as well. Check out my community tab. Check out my TikTok if you want. I don't really use it that much, but sometimes I'll post stupid shit on there. And you can go look back in time to a time capsule of old Teagle if you want. But I do appreciate you watching this video and giving me the watch time to get to this point, and I hope to see you all later. Stay safe, and goodbye.